happier, California or Virginia? I didn't hear that. What was that? That both have different virtues? Okay, I think we're getting into TMI. Well, welcome everybody. As I said, my name is Stu'S Shostak. I do a little program on the internet called Stu'S Show. Is there anybody here who's heard my show? Is there anybody here who's heard my show like on a regular basis, like everywhere? Really? Is there anybody here who's lying through their teeth? It's all right. Well, you're going to get to know me. You're going to get to know our panelists. By the end of the hour today, we only have an hour. And those of you that have heard my show know that it's very hard for me to have one person on the show in an hour, let alone 5. And 4 of the 5 people on the panel have been on my show, some of them more than once. There's one lady here who I'm absolutely thrilled about because I have not had the chance to talk with her and chat with her about her career. And she is wonderful, and I'm so excited that I'm able to do that today. Have all of you been here all day long? Yes. Are any of you going to be around tomorrow? Yeah. Okay. All of them, all of the celebrities, including myself, are going to be downstairs signing autographs. Half of the proceeds that I am signing for are going to go to benefit St. Jude's. So please stop by my table. Thank you. People from St. Jude's are here. What's that?
How long are you going to be? What time are you going to come downstairs?
What time am I going to come down? So I'm still on California time. I'm going to try to come down by 9 a.m., which is 6 a.m. my time, but don't hold me to it. I will be there till 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, which would be 2 o'clock my time. Just as I'm getting used to your time zone, I have to go back to California. Okay, like I said, we do not have a lot of time here today, so we're going to just start by bringing out the people that you have come to know and love for 55. Some of these people have been acting for 55, 60 years. Do we want to say that, ladies? No, we don't want to say that. They've been acting a long time. Okay, so let me start with a little program called My 3 Sons. The brothers first, because one of the brothers was on the show from the time it premiered in 1960 till the time it went off the air in 1972. The other one joined the show in 1963 and lasted until 1972. And if any of you are familiar with the television business, that is a long, long time to be connected with the series. In fact, everybody, all of our guests today were on phenomenal television. So you're seeing television history here, folks. So here are Chip and Ernie Douglas from My 3 Sons. Ladies and gentlemen, because we found out during rehearsal that we only have 3 microphones, so they're going to share. And a couple of other people are going to share. But now I would like you to meet the lady who played their sister-in-law. Remember Katie Douglas? This lady is incredibly talented, incredibly nice. She had a long career before My 3 Sons. She was a contract player at Warner Brothers. Surfside 6. Were you on Maverick? Surfside 6. What other show? Hawaiian Eye on Surfside 6. She's got the body and she's blonde, perfect for the beach, right? Surfside 6 and Hawaiian Eye. And she's one of the singing King family. She's one of the King cousins. And on My 3 Sons, she was married to Robbie. She's Katie Douglas. She is the beautiful Miss Tina Ford! And now I'm going to introduce you to the star of Lassie. The star of the one that doesn't bark, and the one that doesn't have 4 legs. He played Timmy Martin, Mr. John Provost! And now, as I said, I have not had the pleasure of having this lady on my show. I would love to have this lady on my show, but at least we have her now for the next hour. You want to talk about a career? Linda Williams on the Danny Thomas Show? Remember? This one will get the applause. Kenny Robinson on Lost in Space. And one of the Von Trapps on Sound of Music, and yes, she did her own singing. Here is the very beautiful Miss Angela Cartwright. look gorgeous. Isn't she? Oh, we're going to find out today how she liked having Danny Williams yell at her all the time. We'll find that out a little bit later. Who do we want to start with? Let's start with Angela. You know why? Because Tuesday they released the Blu-ray on Lost in Space. Has anybody bought that yet? It is a fantastic set. If you haven't bought it, you got to get it because there's original broadcasts in there. I know there's collectors here that love the original commercials. This was for years they were trying to get this released, right?
Yeah, I guess they just decided to wait until the 50th anniversary. Do you want me to hold this?
If you want, you can do whatever you like.
Well, it is very exciting because I have seen some of the shows and Blu-ray. Oh my gosh, they're so gorgeous. I know that there were discs that came out for Lost in Space before, but this is totally different. It looks amazing how it held up over 50 years, which is kind of like us. Also, there's all this bonus footage in there, and there's a script that Bill Mooney wrote about us coming back to Earth that he had taken to Irwin, and Irwin said, I'm going to do my own thing. Irwin Allen, that is, who created the show. So I'm going to do my own thing. So Bill, finally, we had a script read, and all of us sat around and we read this great script that Bill wrote with a couple of friends. And it was really fun to do, and we got totally back into it, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it, because it was photographed by 8 cameras, and we really kind of just picked up our characters where we left off.
That's fantastic. And what are some of the other extras? There's all kinds of commentaries on there too, right?
There is. We actually watched the 6 shows, and we just off the cuff, nothing was rehearsed. We just looked at them, and the memories that came back are quite humorous. That was really cool. Also, there's Bill's original script from Reluctant Stowaway. And then Bill Mooney and myself, we have also written a book of, it's a pictorial memoir, we call it. If you follow me at all, you know I love photography and I love pictures. And I have a book out called Styling the Stars, Lost Treasures from the 20th Century Fox Studios, where I was in the archives for 2.5 years, finding continuity photographs of all the great stars that made movies at 20th. And I gotta tell you, almost every great star from the 30s to the 60s, 70s made a movie for 20th. So I found some great material. It's a 300-page book. It's quite large. And that kind of started us on this little path of finding all these old photos from Lost in Space. So Bill and I came up with this idea to put together these little memoirs, and so many memories came flooding back. So that'll be available in a couple weeks.
That's great. And you want to give out your website, or do you want them to go to Amazon to buy the book? How do you want them to do that?
You probably would get it faster just by going angela-cartwright.com. I will have it posted there when you can order it, and I think the website's going to be Lost and Found in Space, where you'll be able to click and buy it.
That's the name of the book, Lost and Found in Space?
Yeah.
What a great title. Best of luck with that. Oh, it's too bad you didn't have it ready for this convention.
I know. We tried.
Okay, that's good enough.
But we will.
Let me ask you a little bit. We don't have a lot of time, so
I know.
we'll do the abbreviated version because I want to give them time to ask questions.
The
too.
cliff notes.
You know,
Okay.
we don't come to Baltimore that often, folks. Let me ask you about the Danny Thomas Show, just very briefly. Did you have to audition for that? Because at the end of the 4th season, they had another little actress playing Linda Williams when they introduced Marjorie Lord. And over the summer, when the show switched from ABC to CBS, all of a sudden Angela Cartwright, thank God, was playing Linda Williams. And I'm wondering if you knew any of the history about that. You know why they...
I was 4.
Think really, really hard.
I don't know any of the history of that one. I did hear it was cast with somebody else, and they just didn't resonate with her, apparently. I don't know, it was kind of fate. I was born in England, came on a boat. My parents never thought of show business as being something that my sister and I would be involved in. Just sort of happened, and I don't know, I got cast in that show, and it went for 7 years.
Was that the first time you worked in front of a live audience?
In front of a live audience, but I had previously been Paul Newman's daughter in Somebody Up There Likes Me, where he played Rocky Graziano. Yeah. And I was stabbed to death by Sidney Poitier behind a curtain never showed those things in those days. We had a Rock Hudson movie called Something of Value. And I'd done some modeling and stuff, and then I got this role as Linda Williams. And the hardest thing was I had a British accent, so I had to become very Brooklyn very quickly.
Did you actually have an acting coach or a dialogue coach to help you lose your accent?
No, Danny was enough for that.
Lebanese American accent. I had Sherry Jackson on my show.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a crossover period where the two of you were on for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
She just thought you were the most adorable little girl, and she said that on the show, and she absolutely loved you. Now, she had her issues with Rusty. There was no, well, she did a tell-all on my show. How did you and Rusty get along as brother and sister on the show?
When he wasn't tripping me or pulling my ponytail.
That's what I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that.
Because, you know, I think it was kind of like, you know, here's this like little girl come in, and he had been on the show for already 3 years. Because the show actually went 11 years, the Danny Thomas show. And yeah, there were a few issues. He was several years older than I was. But, you know, to me, I didn't have an older brother, so it was just kind of weird. But I don't know. I lived through it. He didn't do anything terrible, so.
How fun was it working with Danny? Was he tough on the set? Was he a perfectionist?
Oh, total perfectionist, loud, gregarious, everything my father was not. And I got to say real sassy stuff, you know, that I'd never get away with at home, so.
Yeah, you kind of took the place of Rusty. When he was little in the early days of the show, he got the best lines, and when you came in, you got the best lines.
Yeah.
There's outtakes on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a post-cereal commercial you're doing with a hula hoop. You can't be more than 5 or 6 years old, and here you are holding the product, hula hooping, and pitching this at the same time. You're like 5 years old. That is incredible. How many takes, Angela, on that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. You just did it. I mean, you can ask any of us. I mean, it just, you went and you just did what you did. I can't do it today, but I could do it.
I want to see it try.
No, it's, yeah, I look at it, there's also a Dinah Shore special I did. I was only 5, and I enjoy being a girl from beginning to end, and I'm dressing into a Halloween outfit, which I found in my trunk the other day.
Oh, cool.
Here is that.
Anybody want to bid on that?
No, it just blew my mind. I went, wow, that's cool. I didn't know how I did that, but I did. I mean, you don't have all the garbage in your head, for one thing.
How did you feel? First of all, do you have any favorite episodes? Any episodes from all the years you were on that stand out in your mind as any of your favorite?
The Danny Thomas?
Yeah.
Let's see. I think the one that stands out the most, I think, is when Danny would chase me around the table to get my tooth. He wanted to pull my tooth out.
They know the show.
Yeah. There's some great shows. They all had morals, and you know, at the end, or Danny would sing. I mean,
I wanted to ask you about that. How did you like Danny's singing?
Oh, I loved it.
Okay.
And you know what I recognized was I knew all the words to all those old favorite songs, which, you know, normally I don't think a kid would know that, but yeah. I did.
So the show ended, I think, in 1964, and I think it was Danny's decision. I don't think you were canceled. I think he wanted to move on and run his production
That's
company.
very, very true.
How did you feel after, I mean, it sounds corny, but you were a family on the show, and, you know, you got to know these people really well, and you kind of grew up in front of our eyes. How did you feel when the show was over?
Well, he did decide that he had done it so long and he wanted to do some other stuff, so he did decide to cancel the show. However, realizing that I would be out of a job at 10 years old, I think it was 11 actually, and so I went on an interview for The Sound of Music.
Wow.
And actually, I got the part of Brigitte.
You can applaud, of course you can.
No, I got that part, and actually Danny let me out of my contract so that I could start rehearsal.
Really?
And he didn't have to do that.
So you missed the last few episodes?
Just one.
Oh, just one.
Episode, but I went to the goodbye party, and it was heartbreaking. I mean, he had been my family. I used to call him Daddy number 2, you know.
Did you see, well, you did see much of him because they did the spin-off a few years later, Make Room for Granddaddy.
Right.
Did that. Yeah, I remember the episode where Danny's teaching you to drive. That was a
Yeah, that was favorite one.
Was it, how was that? We've got to move on to Lost in Space, and I've got other people, but yeah, no, but coming back 6 years later, was it the same?
Well, of course I was older and wiser, but that was a really fun show to do. It was a very ill-fated show, though, because the writer's strike was that year, and boy, we had a lot of problems with scripts. I actually think it would have been much more successful had it not been during the writer's strike. We had some amazing people, Frank Sinatra, Diana Ross, I mean, the list goes on and on. I really hope they'll show those again.
They exist, and
I know they exist.
YouTube is great, isn't it? You can see a lot of this stuff that's not out commercially. People learn from their collections.
Some of you guys have recorded those things and then you post them.
Yeah, but we're happy that you did it, because we're not greedy producers. We like that stuff up there. Very, very quickly, talk about Lost in Space and how you got cast as Penny Robinson. If it is a quick story.
Well, yeah, I did the Sound of Music. Took a year to do. I was in Austria 3 months. That was a great experience. It was so different, and I was with all these other kids, which made it a lot of fun. And then I left Austria, and they kept me on the lot at 20th Fox. I think they were trying to find something for me to do, and that's when I got called by Irwin Allen to come in and meet him. And when I walked in, he said, "Oh my God," he said, "I thought you'd be in your 20s smoking a cigar." I think he mixed me up with Danny Thomas.
I heard that about him, and he had a little problem. Yeah.
Anyway, he cast me, and we became, Penny Robinson, and that was a blast.
Yeah, I want to say one thing before we move on. What's that? Somebody said a blast. Okay. I want one thing. When Bill Mooney did my show, I said, "Why in the hell did Angela cut her hair for the last season of the show?" And he said, "It was a wig."
It was a wig. I actually, it came down from, the powers that be, that my hair looked like a shawl. It was very long, and I was very, very proud of it. I loved my long hair, and come on, it was the 70s. Real. So it came down, they wanted me to cut it. I said, I really don't want to cut my hair. So then I had that little stupid wig. And they used to braid my hair every morning and put it under that little wig. And, that was a look. It was kind of like the little page boy with the little short mini dress. But I was glad I didn't have to cut it. However, years later, as I sat in the hairdresser's chair of John Peters, don't know if that name means anything. He was like, hairdresser to the stars. He took the scissors and just cut my hair and didn't even ask me. But
how much did you get in the lawsuit for that?
At the time I was horrified, but I came to realize, I was 18, and I came to realize I might not have had the guts to do it myself for a long time. And so it was kind of like this shaggy thing, kind of the Farrah Fawcett thing.
Yeah.
I got a lot of work with that haircut. So he probably knew what he was doing. However,
I'm going to let them answer the questions because we want to move along. Hello, John Provost. He's got his Timmy shirt on again. The name of the book is Timmy's in the Well.
Timmy's in the Well.
Perfect title. Now let's do 6 degrees of separation. I want to talk about the transition from Tommy Reddick to John Provost. Tommy was the boy on Lassie for 4 years?
3 years.
3 years. 1957 is when you came in.
Correct.
All right. You were 6?
I started the show when I was 7.
7.
And
you won the part, and they did replace Tommy because he was outgrowing the role.
Yeah, Tommy had turned 17, and he wanted out. He was tired of being Jeff, and he really said, I want out of here. And so they said, okay, we want to find a little boy and to replace you. But they actually didn't let them know that I was going to be replacing him. They thought I was just going to come on the show for a few different series and a few episodes, and then it turned out that the public liked Timmy, and then they said, okay, Tommy, you can go, and Timmy's going to take over.
He welcomed you with open arms.
He did, he sure did, and he gave me the dog.
Okay, the $1 million question, did you get along with the dog? And how many dogs were there over the course of the 7 years?
In the 7 years, I worked with 3. I worked with the one, his nickname was the Old Man, and he worked with Tommy. He was the son of Pal, the original, who only did movies. And then I worked with him for 1 year, and then his son for 1 year. and then the grandson for 5 years. So he was the dog that I really bonded and grew up with.
Now, you notice he said he. Explain that.
Well, all the Lassies were males, and of course, Lassie was supposed to be a female, or it would have been called Laddie. But Lassie's... Laddie dog, exactly. But, so Lassie was like the longest cross-dresser in Hollywood. But,
We're all right with that.
now, I have to say, though, Rudd told me the reason that he used males, and he said the males were larger, more colorful, more heroic looking. And ladies, I didn't say this, but Rudd did. He said the males were smarter and easier to train.
All right, I'll at least we know they're paying attention to you. Now, I said 6 degrees of separation. Was it the transitional episode that somebody on this panel was actually in the episode with you?
Actually, it was when I was already as a Martin, I believe. And yeah, my good buddy here, they didn't want to risk my life, but they risked his.
He hasn't been cast on My Three Sons, so it was okay.
I was John's stunt double in that episode. I don't know how the heck you ended up in a bunch of water, fell off a bridge or whatever.
No, it almost was Kimmy's in the well in that episode.
Almost. Yeah, it was like quicksand or something, and you were a good swimmer and I wasn't, or they didn't know, but like I said, they didn't want to put me in danger.
But now wait a minute, I read your book, and later on they didn't care about you. You did all kinds of crazy things.
Oh, I wanted to?
Tell them something.
Oh, yeah, no, I wanted to do my own stunts. I mean, every kid did. They would catch me in the barn, and they had hay bales stacked all the way up. And I'd be playing in the barn when I wasn't working, and I'd be up on the top of the hay bale, and I'd pretend I was getting shot, and I would fall down and, tumble down the hay bale. And somebody saw me and was like, "You can't do that, what are you doing?" And I said, I wanted to do my own stunts. So they did start to let me do some, but towards the end of the series, we did a 5-parter. It was the only thing we did in color, and they released it as a movie called Lassie's Great Adventure. And there was a scene where Lassie and I had to go down some river and some rapids and get thrown into the water. And it was before computer-generated images, so they had to use me and Lassie. And we couldn't rehearse it. Ended up that I almost drowned. They had 2 guys in wetsuits to jump in and pull Lassie out, but
Let me ask you about working with the dog. Was Rudd, the trainer, always on the set giving him commands? Now, he's yelling or snapping his fingers. You, as an actor, have to really put that out of your mind, right?
Well,
talk a little about that.
Yeah, the thing was, Rudd, he was obviously the owner and trainer and breeder of Lassie, and he had his #1 trainers called Sam, and then one of Rudd's 2 sons. So there was always 3 trainers on the set. Lassie's commands were half verbal and half hand signals. So if Rudd or one of his trainers had to give a verbal command to Lassie, we would have to space our dialogue because they didn't want to have to go back and edit the sound. So we would have to train ourselves to work with Rudd when he was telling Lassie what to do. The one Lassie that I worked with for 5 years, we were like this. I loved that dog and he loved me. I would go home on the weekend with Rudd and spend the weekend with Lassie on the ranch. But we would go back to work, and I'd been working with him for 4 or 5 years, and I'd say, come here, his nickname was Baby. I'd say, "Come here, Baby," and he'd come over, and I'd say, "Yeah, sit." And he'd look at me and go, "You're not my trainer." He would only, obey commands given to him by his trainers, because it had to be that way, because he would be really distracted, and it was that way with all of Rudd's stuff.
Now, when you went on to do other acting, were you able to forget about that and do acting the way the rest of the actors on the panel did, or did it take you a little time?
No, I just, it's
What's the matter,
like
Jack? I'm waiting for the dog. Oh, there is no dog.
No, it's just what we did. We grew up doing it, and it just came that way, came naturally.
I have to sidetrack 1 second, because in asking about Lassie, I forgot to ask Angela about the bloop. Did you like working with
Of course. The bloop was very well trained. The animals that we worked with, now of course they're all CGI, like in this show Stu'S. I mean, those are real animals. But anyway, in those days, you actually had real animals you worked with. And the group was great. Her name was Debbie. Played Debbie too. Oh, it was Chip's girlfriend, Debbie.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll explain that.
Many Debbies, many blooms and dogs. Anyway, she was great. I loved her. I was supposed to be a zoologist, Penny, a genius one, my dad. And I loved working with her. She didn't like the hat, though.
Who was more of a discipline problem, the monkey or Dr. Smith?
No, Jonathan for sure.
Okay, I got one other question for John, and then we'll move to Tina. When you came on the show, correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't seen the episodes in a while, but wasn't Cloris Leachman your mother before June Lockhart was?
Yes.
What happened?
Cloris Leachman and a man by the name of John Shepherd were hired to be Paul and Ruth Martin. Well, you look at Cloris Leachman and you look at June Lockhart, and, you know, the demeanor is slightly different. Well,
You think?
after a few months on the set, you know, Cloris realized what she'd gotten herself into, and she goes, "I'm not baking damn cookies for 5 years." So she wanted out, and you know, she made a big enough stink that the producers said, "Okay, fine, we'll release you from the contract." But John Shepherd, they had to release him also, because if they just replaced one parent, they figured that the public wouldn't understand and wouldn't go with it. So poor John, he'd gotten this series, he had moved from New York, bought a house, thought he was set, and then boom, lost the job.
You know, that would be no big deal today. You know, they did the same thing to poor Sylvia Field on Dennis the Menace after Joseph Kearns died. You know, that's really not a big deal. Look, they had 2 Darrens, and we all know how we feel about that. But anyway, they brought in Hugh Riley, who was a great father.
Oh yeah, so June and Hugh Riley, and when they came on the first episode, there was no explanation, so one Sunday everybody saw Cloris and John, and the next Sunday it was June and Hugh, and the studio didn't get one letter.
Yeah, there was no internet.
That's all. Yeah.
It would have been everywhere the next day. What are they doing? All right, I'm going to let you guys ask questions of John. We'll move on to Tina. Let's talk about the King family really quickly. Did it start in the 40s with your mom and your aunts?
It started in the 30s. Actually, it started when my mother was 4, so that was 1924. Wow. The family, 8 brothers and sisters, and Grandma and Grandpa, and Grandpa was a frustrated musician, giving up a scholarship to Juilliard to have babies, for his wife to have babies in Colorado and Utah. And so when my mother was 4, she was the youngest, he brought instruments home for Christmas. That's all they got. He taught them how to sing and dance and do little plays. And they packed him up in the Dodge touring car and went on the road. So they did all the Midwest kind of vaudeville. And I remember she had two outfits, one for the show and one for traveling. And they worked all summer, and wherever they landed in the fall, that's where they rented a house and went to school. But that's where the music started, and then 3 of the sisters started singing as teenagers on KSL radio in Utah, and were hired by Horace Heidt. And they sang with Horace Heidt for a while, and then when my mother was 14, the sisters were at the Chicago Drake with Horace, and my grandpa, my oldest aunt said, "I don't want to do this anymore." So Grandpa drove to Oakland High School, grabbed my mother and her sister Donna out of school and said, "Girls, your sisters need you in Chicago." And packed up the car and drove them to Chicago, and they became the 4 King sisters.
And it started from there.
That started there.
Now,
So
when
my
the
mom
King-
was 14.
Now, when the King, and then when you were born into the family, whether you wanted to or not, you became a singer. Did you want to?
Oh, well, like you said, we just did it.
You did it, just part of your
It was
daily.
part of it, yeah. And my mom said, "Hey, let's do a show with the King sisters and their families." And she called everybody up, and we all said, "Okay." And so she produced the show. And after 3 benefits, standing ovations every benefit, ABC bought it, and Elton Rule, head of programming for ABC at the time, saw it, and after seeing the first trial or whatever, the benefit, the live benefit, that we taped, he had tears in his eyes. He said, I want my children to be able to see shows like this. And so we were the replacement for Outer Limits in January of 1965.
I don't know whether I want to tell this crowd that. No, but at the peak, when you were doing the ABC show, how many of you were on stage for that opening?
We started, the opening was 39 of us, so we were really, let me tell you, we were the first reality show on television. Serious. I mean, there were kids nudging each other and wandering around the stage and nose pickers in every show. You can't get more real than that.
Now, a few years prior to that, you did start acting. And were your family supportive of your acting, or did they say, we don't want you to do that because you got to sing with us, or were they fully supportive?
No, the family actually hadn't started yet. Warner Brothers, the heads of Warner Brothers discovered me when I was 15. And I had my first screen test with Gary Cooper. Except I didn't know who he was. I was a kid, and he was an old man. And I think about it now, I think, oh. Anyway, they liked me, and so I went to drama school every summer at Warner Brothers for 4 years, and I wanted to be a teacher, but in the middle of, between my freshman year and sophomore year of college, I got a call from Warner Brothers, and they asked me to screen test for Hawaiian Eye, which was one of my favorite shows.
That was Connie Stevens' show, right?
Connie Stevens. And she was put on suspension for 6 months, and they called me. And I had to sing, and I had to dance, which I'd never done any of these things before. And I had to do a love scene with Troy Donahue.
Which you had never done before.
Which I'd never done. And he had just done A Summer Place in Paris.
Yeah.
And of course, love scenes in those days weren't what they are today. But it was a romantic scene, and 3 weeks later I was in Hawaii.
Yeah, how cool was that? And then, I don't know, I'm sure this crowd knows this, but you did a couple of, before you were cast as Katie Douglas on My Three Sons, during the ABC black and white years, you had a couple of roles as, were you Robbie's girlfriend in those too?
Yeah, actually, I was a neighbor, and I played with Barry.
Oh, you played with Barry? She played with Barry!
Way before I played with Robbie.
And with good reason.
And then I was a school chum of Robbie's, and then the last one was in color, and I played Joanne, a girlfriend.
So you did a color show before you were cast as Katie. Now, there's so much to talk about in so little time, so we'll get the short version here. They're going to marry Robbie off because the show has been on, I think it's the 8th season, and they had to come up with more stories. Somebody calling? Turn off your cell phone, folks. We're busy here. Did you audition, or because you had done the show before, they kind of had you in mind? Because you know what I'm getting at? I'm talking about Don Brady's response when they told him that you were going to play his wife. Listen to this.
Yeah. Well, I didn't audition. They called me and said, why haven't you come in? I think they'd seen like 2,000 girls or something for this thing, and they'd screen tested about 20. And they called me and said, why haven't you been in? And I said, I'm busy doing the King family show and the King cousins. And they said, well, would you come talk to us? So I thought I was going in just to get the sides to do a test. And I went in and I talked to Fred DeCordova for an hour, and Ed Hartman, our producer, for an hour, and then Fred and June. So I think they'd already cast me, but I didn't know that. I left with my script, and I was waiting at the elevator, and our casting director came running after me and said, wait, you didn't sign the contract. And I said, what? She said, well, you got the show, we start in a week. And when Don found out that I was cast, he really was unhappy. I did not fit. I think he would have liked Polly better.
Well, Ronnie True?
Ronnie True. Well, he liked, tall, skinny, real long, straight-haired little surfer girls with, straight, here I was, this round, bouncy thing, and he didn't think I fit Robbie's character. And so the first week we had to do all the kissing and the making out and getting ready to be married and falling in love, and we couldn't kiss. We could not. I was married at the time.
Well, call Barry.
So the Cordoba stopped the scene and said, okay, look, you guys, let's go to another scene, and you two need to go out in the back of the screen, the stage, and practice kissing. He's terrible at it.
How long did it take before he accepted you? And then tell him what happened after that. You know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it was a couple of years. And
A couple of years?
Well, I think he got adjusted, you know. But we became friends, and I was divorced, and we started doing shows, benefits together, telethons, and singing together. And I was singing together. We just kind of went, oh, oh, this feels good. And we fell madly in love. And
For real? For
yeah,
real?
he was the love of my life. He asked me to marry, he left the show, which devastated me. Because we also had done a spinoff, which he just said he didn't want to act anymore. And so he wasn't on the last year. And in that time, he asked me to marry him, and I wasn't ready. And then a few years later, we did the Partridge Family reunion, my two sons, and he said, I think I made a mistake. I should never have gotten married to this other person. He said, I'll call you when I'm divorced. He was a good guy.
Don't be mad at us.
No.
We're not all like
So,
that.
and he called me, and he said, okay, I'm single. And then I asked him to marry me, and he said, no, I'm not ready. So I married Beverly Garland's stepson, and she became my real stepmother-in-law.
That was after the show wrapped, though, right? That was after that. What a story. Before we wrap this up, let's plug you. The King Cousins are performing in our neck of the woods in Santa Barbara, October 4th. I want everybody to get on a plane, make your reservations for that. You can all stay at my house. My wife would love that.
We want to come east.
Yeah, no, you are traveling the country, though, with the King.
We hope so.
The King
We
Cousins.
just, after 30 years, we're back together and doing concerts.
And
We have a new CD out.
do you still have any CDs left?
I do.
They're selling like crazy downstairs.
I have a couple left.
Okay, those of you that are around tomorrow, go down, see Tina and get a CD, and you can at least hear them. We won't be able to see them live like we're going to.
It's the music that you all remember and love.
Yeah, and
It's our music.
And Johnny, I forgot to plug your website, which is johnprovost.com. Right. And the book is still available there, and the book is available here at the show. So who's in the well? Okay. Hi guys, you're so patient. Thank you so much. Let's start with, I'm going to just give them a couple of words here, word association. Swim School and Ozzie and Harriet. And you take it from there. Go.
Swim school in Ozzie and Harriet.
Yeah.
Well, I was discovered in Hollywood at a swim school. I literally swam into the industry. This lady ran a swim school that was very popular with Hollywood type people. They bring their kids in and learn how to swim. Agents, producers, and an agent saw me there. And she thought I was cute and extroverted and came up to my mom and said, gee, I'd like to send him out. And my mom thought about it for a while, for 5 minutes, and said, okay. So my first job was actually as an extra on Ozzie and Harriet. Except for drowning for John.
Drowning for John.
He couldn't swim, so they needed somebody, some sucker to jump in the water. Actually, get stuck in the mud. I almost drowned. But after that, I went out on an Ozzie and Harriet, and I was basically hired as an extra. Didn't have any lines, and for whatever reason, before we shot the scene, Ozzie Nelson came up to me and said, "Why don't you say this line?" And he told me what to say, and anyway, we shot it, and my line was, "Sure was mighty good camping in there, Mr. Nelson." Selling Christmas trees in his backyard to make money, and they shot the master, and I got a close-up, and they both made the cut. And next thing I knew, he called back and said, "Gee, we'd like to have him on again." And I sort of became a semi-regular little neighborhood kid on Ozzie and Harriet, which is kind of weird, because if you think about it, you couldn't do that kind of show today. Ozzie was always hanging out with a little 8-year-old boy.
Taking him to the mall shop, yeah.
That wouldn't cut it. But,
That's a sad state of affairs, which we don't have time to get into. But is it when you got cast on My Three Sons that Ozzie brought Barry in? Is that, or did you guys?
We actually had worked together before. Actually, the very first job I ever had was playing Pullman and Son. Stan was playing Pullman and Joan Woodward's son in a movie called Rally Around the Flag was. of which I got fired because
You tell that story real quick. This is a great story.
Yeah, how much time do we have? Okay, real quick. No, I was not wearing glasses when the filming started, and somewhere a week or two into it, much to the consternation of the director, he kept yelling at me that I'm not paying attention, not looking at a television, and that was what the scene required, and ignore Paul Newman, who was coming in the door and playing our dad. And eventually they determined that my eyes were, something was wrong with my eyes, that they were starting to cross, and so they said I need glasses, and so the producer said, well, then there's the door, because we're going to recast the door. So my first job I was fired from. And then actually on Ozzie and Harriet, Stan was already on Ozzie and Harriet, I was asked to come do an episode, and I was actually too short to reach the chalkboard in the scene, and so I was actually let go from that too. Eventually said, we'll find something for Barry, and then when Stan went on to My Three Sons, I got written in as the kid next door, the part that he was pretty much playing.
Actually, Barry and I did do an episode of Ozzie and Harriet.
T-shirts show.
Yeah, the T-shirts where you had the Welcome Home skinny T-shirts that you got printed, and it was a mistake, and he was just giving them to kids. Anyway, Ozzie's big thing was when you were in the scene, if he wanted you to do whatever you wanted to do, he would have a bowl of ice cream for you, and you would get to eat ice cream. So after that, we do whatever was required. And there's a great scene of Barry with ice cream all over his face.
You guys both loved Ozzie. He was
yeah.
just a great, and he knew every aspect of that studio. He knew the camera work, the lighting, the audio. There's a rumor that he had a union card for every position in the studio, so that he could say, no, do it like this, but he did it in a nice way.
The fun part working on that show was that we got to see Rick Nelson debut all his hit songs before they actually hit the airwaves. The radio, because Rick would record them, and Ozzie knew the release dates, so he would film, tag into an episode, break at the sock hop, and he would do, Hello Mary Lou or Traveling Man, and the next day after the show was aired, that song would be released and would skyrocket to #1. So Ozzie figured out the whole, paradigm of how you work the music.
He played this happy-go-lucky, bumbling father on TV, but he really was one of the smartest guys in this industry. Really, really cool. All right, now, before you did My Three Sons, you did an episode of Dennis the Menace, didn't you, Stan?
Yeah, I kind of did a lot of episodic TV, but I wasn't a regular on it, but I was almost Dennis the Menace. It was down between myself and the actor who finally got the part, Jay North, and there was one other kid, I can't remember his
Ronnie
name.
Howard, probably.
Right, my movie Ronnie Howard. I got to be on the Dennis Menace show. I don't even know if I had any lines, but I got to do a couple episodes.
Yeah. So how did My Three Sons come about for you?
Well, My Three Sons came about because after Ozzie and Harriet, there was a guy on the stage next door. I used to go out when I wasn't working on Ozzie and Harriet, and I got through with my schooling. There was a horse in between the two stages that I would go out, and the trainer would let me feed sugar lumps to and carrots. It was Mr. Ed. And so I'd go out, and he'd let me help him wash it and brush it. And there was a guy that would come out, and he kind of saw me there a couple times, and then I loved animals when I was a kid. I kind of wandered onto this other set. There was a basset hound there, and so I started playing with him, and the guy was Jackie Cooper. It was a show called People's Choice, and so he followed me back into the Ozzie and Harriet set, and I guess he talked to my mother and found out who I was, and he wanted to do a pilot of a film that he did, I believe it was in the 1930s, called Skippy, and his intention was to turn that into a TV series, and I got cast in the part of Skippy. So we shot the pilot, and I was under contract to him. And while this was going on, I started doing movies. Barry and I did Ride Around the Flag Boys. I was in another feature film called Please Don't Eat the Daisies with Doris Day and David Niven, and some other TV shows. And my agent got a call that there was a series that was coming up. I think we knew it was called My Three Sons. I'm not even sure of that anymore, but they wanted to see me, and I went in, and I was literally hired on the spot, and we were trying to find out what it was. They said, well, we can't tell you. All we can tell you is there's a big movie star going to do this part, which turned out to be Fred McMurray, which we didn't find out until maybe 2 weeks before we started shooting. So they hired me. They had Fred McMurray. Obviously, the show was created around him, and then they cast Wade Frawley from I Love Lucy as the original grandfather. Tim Considine is the older brother Mike, and a guy named Bobby Diamond from Fury. Anybody remember Fury? Well, Bobby Diamond would have been Robbie.
No, and then Ryan O'Neal.
And then
Ryan O'Neal was
hired
cast.
him, and then
They
they hired
hired
another
Ryan
guy.
O'Neal after Bobby Diamond was let go, and Fred McMurray didn't think Ryan O'Neal could do comedy.
Would you have liked to marry Ryan O'Neal, Tina?
No.
Then I didn't go, and after the pilot was shot, and then they got Don Grady to come in at the last minute.
And incidentally, we wouldn't have been the Douglas household in the original pilot script. We were the McPhersons. And it was literally on the day we shot somehow, we're changing the name to Douglas. So we would have had a completely
I'd
different.
love to know the backstory on that. It's just little trivial things that I like to find out about. Okay, now Barry comes in season 4, I believe, as your friend.
It's Katie's love interest.
I'll set him up, you knock him down.
I really like younger men.
Ernie Thompson.
Yes.
Did we ever see Ernie's parents during those black and white years? Do we know?
No, I never did.
Okay.
I was the
Too
child.
busy playing with Tina.
That's why we adopted him.
No, they didn't even, people would ask the last couple of days that I know when I was brought onto the show as the friend next door, was I told that at some point in the future I might become a son, which it was never divulged to me that that might happen. I was just the kid next door, but I think they might have known that Tim Considine, who played Mike, the oldest son,
He was getting a little
he was
antsy.
getting antsy. He wanted to direct. Fred McMurray was not comfortable with that, although they did allow him to do one episode. And he just, felt like he was going to do something else.
You had a friend, or Chip had a friend in the first 3 years named Sudsy.
Yeah, Ricky Allen.
Ricky Allen.
Yes.
All of a sudden he was gone and Barry was in.
Well, there's no
It's,
nepotism in
it's-
show business. Is there?
It's a little thing called a hit.
Did you or your mom have anything to do with that?
Not really, no. I mean, Ricky was a friend of mine off stage. We used to go to the ice skating rink, play hockey, practice. And then he got his 2 front teeth knocked out by a hockey stick, which created a big problem. And right around that time, I think they came up with the idea of using Barry, and they replaced
I
him.
had some guys knock his teeth out. Didn't work well.
Yeah, so Barry started playing my friend. We were in school together, which was strange since I was 3 years older than him. So he was either really smart or I was really
I was really
smart.
In case they don't know, you have a teacher and a welfare worker on the set, and if there's just a couple of kids, the teacher's responsible for all the kids on the set. When you had guest kids on the set, she taught the guest kids, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, which is strange because I was about 2 feet higher than him. But he was cute as a button.
Yes. So when the time came for Tim to fly the coop, he marries Meredith McRae in the first Color episode. We probably should give a little background. ABC was airing the show, and CBS stole it from them, right? ABC
No.
the show.
What happened was that Fred McMurray and Don Feddersen owned the show. They did own the show initially, and they sold it to CBS. And that's when the show went color.
And I think ABC, they thought the show had its run.
So they were going to cancel
They
it.
were going to pick it up. So there was an opportunity for another network to pick it up, and so Fred and Don Feddersen sold it to CBS, their share of CBS.
That's right, and we saw Tim Considine marry Meredith McRae in the first show of the new season.
Yeah, in the first episode of the 5th year, and then he went into the Twilight Zone.
We never saw him again.
We never even heard from him again.
Well, you guys are still in touch with him, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How's he doing, by the way?
Great.
He's really into race cars these days. He
Well,
writes for Hot Rod magazines.
He's an automotive writer.
Yeah.
He writes for Car, Driver, Motor Trend. He's written a huge cocktail table history book of automotive racing in the United States. He's just finished another book called Twice Around the Clock, which is about automotive racing at Le Mans.
So this was a no-brainer. Since Barry had been on the show, the producers decided, okay, Barry's going to be the new third son. You and Don move up the ladder, and Barry joins the show. How'd you feel about that?
Great.
I love these easy questions, these softball questions.
It was coming onto a show that was already a worldwide hit. So there was no sweating it out. Is this pilot going to fly? Or have I got a job? That'll last a year. In fact, it ran another 8 years after that.
And to be fair to Barry, it wasn't like he was handed this job. Barry had just come off doing The Errand Boy with Jerry Lewis, Papa's Delicate Condition with Jackie Gleason, My Six Loves with Debbie Reynolds. So he earned
I
it.
was on a roll, as they say.
Yeah, Stan, you just reminded me. Have you got any copies of your book left? His
I've
book has
got-
been selling like crazy.
One copy, one left, so tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
First
first
come,
one in
first
line
served.
gets the book. The
You know.
importance of being...
The importance of being Ernie. Or I would get sued by some Oscar.
All right. A couple of things, and then we're going to throw it to the audience for questions. Let's talk about the William Frawley, William Demarest controversy, which will straighten out for everybody right here if they don't know. First of all, this gentleman here, Stan Livingston, absolutely adored William Frawley, more than Vivian Vance.
Well, Bill Frawley to me was the grandfather. I never knew. I didn't know either of my real grandfathers. They passed away, and anyway, this old geezer was coming on the show who was coming off I Love Lucy, and I used to play hooky to watch that show. More so to watch Bill Frawley. I just thought he was a hoot, more so than even Lucy. And when I found out he was going to be my grandfather on the show, I was ecstatic. And Bill was the kind of guy where he was kind of W.C. Fieldish. He sort of didn't like kids and he didn't like animals, but we bonded for some reason. And I spent most of my time on the set, just kind of hanging out with him and learning four-letter words, and a cigar, and learning how to play bets on the phone. We'd go to lunch every day to Nicodell's, and my job was, as he got drunker and drunker, he don't listen to me, so I go, okay, Bill, time to get back to work. Okay, kid.
Is it true they did all of his scenes in the morning because they knew he'd be bombed after lunch?
Yeah, he had a pretty good liquid lunch, so to speak. And as time went by, because he was getting older and was having, I don't know, his dementia or whatever, he would either fall asleep or couldn't remember his lines. So they decided to make it easy on him. Instead of always standing at the ironing board, and they would cut to him when he'd do a line, they'd have him seated, and he'd be darning socks or something. But if he didn't have a line, it would be like,
Except when he was chasing girls.
Dad, who was his girlfriend? Was it Patricia?
Patricia Berry.
Patricia
Did
Berry.
you ever see William Frawley? He was the kid, the cook, but the guy was, a lifelong bachelor. Never, ate out every night. So if you ever see him chopping the salad, if you pay attention, because he's like, whack, whack, whack. He's not paying attention.
Did you get it going very well? Because you were on the show.
I was there for a year with Bill, and of course, big brother, I was on the set a lot. My mother was very, very, shrewd to have me sort of lingering in the background, but hanging out. So I knew Stan, was closer with Stan.
The ultimate Bill Frawley story was told to me actually by the producer who accompanied him to an event somewhere in the Midwest. And the producer,
You can tell that.
yeah,
Okay.
this is true, Bill Frawley, forget the show. He went there, and the producer, John Stevens, told the people who were running the show, if you're going to have him come up and talk, be sure you have him come up before too long. Have him up before dinner, if anything. And they didn't take his advice. He had dinner, and by then he'd had about 10 drinks. And they affectionately, talked about all his films and all that, and finally called Bill up, and they were expecting him to speak and talk to everybody. And Bill got up there and said, well, I want to thank you all very much for having me here, and now you all can go fuck yourselves. And then he headed off to the bar.
Where's Johnny Holmes? I didn't say that.
And this is in life with Bill Frawley too, which was they would surprise a celebrity in some restaurant that was all set up ahead of time. And the show, I don't know if you remember it, they'd go, Bill Frawley, this is your life, and they'd catch him off guard. And so John
My
Stevens.
dad produced that.
Did he? So anyway, you can imagine, Bill, they were, what the? And that was the most deleted show. And everybody that they would bring in, they go, here, Bill, here's your school teacher from 1932. And he'd go, I don't know who that is. One after another. They edited so strenuously this whole show.
The worst one was they brought his ex-wife.
Yeah, his ex-wife.
I never heard this. And as long as the curtain this down, tell them what he said to you about Vivian Vance and the Lucy show filmed right next door to my...
There's no children in the audience,
No,
right?
you're going to get worse than what he just did? Go ahead.
You said every time you see her, just yell out, "Hey, you old douchebag!"
Tell about the film cans.
Oh, yeah, well, Bill was all the time pulling pranks, so he asked Barry and I to help him. Right next door was editorial, and we shot film in those days, and there was these enormous film cans that were made of aluminum, so he hatched the idea to go gather up all these film cans, put them in a box, carry them onto the Lucy show set, and wait till he heard Vivian Vance start to do her lines, which we waited, and then he said, "Okay, throw them!" And all these film cans started, it sounded like cymbals crashing, and went on, and she knew who it was because we heard a voice in the background, "Bill!"
And then he would say to us, "Come on, let's get the hell out of here."
He said there's no fun in show business. Now, when the production company decided to replace him, he did eventually pass away, but there was a transition period. The show could not get insurance for him.
Well, what happened was every year before we did a season of shows, we'd all have to go to the doctor and cough left, cough right, and say, "Clean your mouth and depress your tongue." Anyway, Bill's turn came in to go in, and the guy couldn't find his heartbeat. And so they never heartbeat. So, yeah, they couldn't get insurance because of that. They said, "This guy's never going to make 6 months." And turned out the doctor was right, so he was replaced. Actually, we had James Gregory, because before Bill Demarest became available to do the show, and he had worked with Fred McMurray on movies before, we had an interim Uncle Charlie, which was James Gregory for one episode, who played another O'Casey, and he was in and out, and then Bill Demarest showed up, and all I remember thinking is, "You replaced my friend." I didn't like him.
Just to show, we gotta do some damage control here. Just to show what a great guy Bill Frawley was. Tell him about the birthday present.
Oh yeah, when I was about 13, 14, I was into surfing, and I don't know how he figured this out, but I wanted, a surfboard. And Bill Frawley was probably into his 70s, and anyway, on my day of my birthday on the show, I walked into my dressing room, and there was I think a 9-foot-long Dewey Weber surfboard in there, and it said, "To Chip, love, Uncle Bill." And now, to put that in perspective, that's not like handing a kid a $20 bill or a little toy. This is a 9-foot-long surfboard, and this guy didn't drive. So I mean, it really took a lot of thought and effort, how you're going to get it back anywhere. And he had it delivered and, put it in my dressing room. So anyway, and then about a year later, when another friend of mine got all his teeth knocked out, they banned me from surfing, and the surfboard ended up in our swimming pool at home.
You guys got in a lot of trouble at Desilu. Weren't you guys skateboarding too when you got in trouble?
We skateboarded, Barry and I, we went from, first we played baseball, till we threw it, or hit it, and it went to Barry Morton's window. He was the guy that was running, Lucy's husband. So baseball got banned, then Barry and I did bikes for a while, and Barry, I don't know, we played tag on him. I think I hit the back of Barry's bike, and he went through a $30,000 background psych. And then we were skateboarding with the guys from the Lucy show, Ralph Hart and Jimmy Garrett, and there was a hill there, and we went down, and somehow Jimmy Garrett didn't make it, and he broke his leg, or...
Yeah, they had to cancel filming of the Lucy show, postpone it. Yeah. So you guys...
We were pretty much down to basically knitting socks. In fact, we have a really weird picture in my picture album of us knitting socks, and Fred McMurray with us knitting socks.
We haven't mentioned Fred. You all loved him, right?
Yeah.
And he had the greatest deal in television, right? Let's get Tina in on this too a little bit, and then we're going to throw it over to you. What was the schedule? He'd work at the very beginning of the season and at the very end. So the writers had to have all 30 scripts, or however many they did each season, done in advance. Well, you tell us.
Well, when I came in, we were doing 26 shows. Before, you were doing like 36, right?
39.
39 shows a season. Yeah. And when I came in, we were doing 26, and they had to have all 13 scripts done the first day of shooting. And they would shoot all the scenes with Fred, the Masters with everybody, 2 shots or 3 shots, whatever, with Fred, and then from 13 different shows. And I remember one of the, and then whenever he was gone, because he would leave after the first month, and then we would come back and shoot whatever had not been done. And the guy said that one time they had to talk to Fred, and it was a mop.
Yep.
So
What you guys call the mop? You have a nickname for the mop.
Fred McMahon.
Fred
But I remember the first time that happened to me, I was doing Robbie and I were breaking up. It was going to be the end of our wedding plans, and I was crying, and Dad comes in, and this is our first week of shooting, and I got real tears going. And then he did his close-up, and I still got real tears going. And I thought, okay, I'm ready for my close-up. And they said, okay, let's go to the kitchen. Well, but I'm here, and about a month and a half later, they had a break, maybe, hey, I think we could do that close-up of Katie. Here's a Polaroid, this is what you looked like, this is where you were, and now you remember that emotion, and this is your script. Okay, and I did it with the dialogue coach who stood on an apple box behind the camera.
And you thought show business was glamorous.
Was it a problem with you guys growing though? I mean, if you did.
It was. There was one season where I had a growing spurt. I think when I was about 14 when we started, I was probably 5'2", and by the end of the season I was 5'6". So all my pants, they looked like they were for somebody else. My hair went dark; it wasn't blonde anymore.
You got to watch those black and white shows real carefully, and if you do, there's continuity problems
Oh, yeah.
all through the whole thing.
Oh, if you had a pimple, it had to be in the same place. And I had to wear a wig too, because I had cut my hair in the middle of, and it looked horrible, so I had to wear a Katie wig until my hair grew out.
I think I wore that wig in the show. I had long hair.
Oh, that's right. Speaking of which, another 6 degrees of separation. They probably all know this. Angela played your girlfriend in one show before Ronnie Troop played your wife. In fact, you guys got engaged.
We were engaged. We were going to elope.
We were.
Angela probably doesn't know this, but this is another Don Grady Robbie story. When I got called in the year I was going to meet some woman who Chip was going to marry, was Ronnie Troop, and I remember I met her, and then she left, and then I went back in to talk to Don Pedersen, and I think it was one of the writers, George Tibble, and I said, I don't like blondes. And I remember I said, how about Angela Cartwright? She was cute, she had dark hair. And she was on the show before.
Forget Marcia Brady, I never watched.
You ain't seen nothing if you haven't seen us in our wetsuits.
Anyway, so they had already, I guess, decided on Ronnie Troop, and I didn't get my way.
But the length of that show was phenomenal. 12 years on the air. Barry was on at 8. Tina, you were on at 6, 5, 6?
5, but with 3 seasons.
Right, and as we should clarify one thing, you mentioned that there was going to be a spin-off. The show had evolved to the point where it was going to be you and Robbie and the 3 triplets were going to be the new 3 sons. But Don wanted to pursue his music career. And if all you folks that watch the show know that Don Grady was not in the last season of the show, but there were so many other cast members, I don't think anybody knows. There was a wife, there was Dodie, there were all of these people. And was it Fred Silverman that said, okay, enough, and pulled the plug? Was it?
Well, our show lasted so long, I think, and this is, I don't know, maybe lost on people in this day and age, but Fred McMurray, when he came to do TV, it was unheard of that you were going to get a movie star of that caliber ever to do, outside of maybe a Bob Hope special or appearing on the Lucy show, one-off type of thing. And when they got Fred McMurray, they were just beside themselves that they had hooked this huge movie star into a TV series. And he came willing because he had kids and he didn't have a lot of money and a lot of money, the other half of the show and the percentage of it, and a huge salary.
And not having to work very long.
And not having to work very long. All of us dwarfs were down in the mine the whole summer while he would go with his kids. But it was just, it was a big deal. Today it would be like if Tom Cruise said, hey, I'm going to do a TV series, it would be unheard heard of it. Hey, what was the rest of the question?
Well, that was it basically.
Yeah.
You know, 12 seasons. It was Fred Silverman that.
Yeah, he was. Well, I know
Norman
what
Lear
I
had
was
changed
going to
television.
say. I think the show won 12 seasons because nobody at CBS at the time wanted to be the guy to say to Fred McGurry, "Oh, we're canceling your show."
Yeah.
I mean, they were afraid of him.
But in all fairness, when we talked about this on my show, you guys were a little frustrated that they wouldn't let your characters grow. I mean, yes, you got older, you got married, but you were still living in the early 60s, right?
Well, not only were we living in the early 60s, but we were all living under one roof. We were like first family on welfare. And the house at least it was the Brady Bunch, they had an architect there. You know? We only had an aeronautical engineer, but a lot of it does have a wing sticking out.
But it was time. You were ready to move on anyway, right?
Yeah, I almost left the series last year. I got an offer to be on, I don't remember, was it Laramie or Western at that time, and I gave serious consideration. I thought, maybe this would be a good career move. I'd be seen differently, and then I just couldn't see leaving the series behind. I got to finish this out.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
said,
And you made it through all 12 years. Remarkable. Amazing. John, was it your decision to leave Lassie?
Yes, I had a 7-year contract with Lassie with a 3-year option, but the option was ours. The studio wanted to go for 3 more years. I was 14. I was, going through puberty, getting more interested in girls and getting rid of dogs. And so, my parents were good enough. They said, "What do you want to do? You can do it for 3 more years, or you can quit and move on." And I wanted to continue acting, but I was tired. I went through the same thing that Tommy did, and it was just time to move on and do something different. So.
Yeah. And Angela, yeah, well, you would say
Well,
something.
I just wanted to make a statement. These are the days when you did 36 shows, or 26 shows was a season. None of this 8 crap. You have to wait a whole year to find out.
I love you guys. You're great.
No, it was hard work. Think about that. I mean, you're doing, in my case, a live show and in front of a live audience every Thursday. We did 36 of them a season. So it wasn't, a short season, and that is why some of this happens. I'm sure a lot of you are going, why would he leave a show? But, it's tough. It's a career.
Were you upset when was Lost in Space canceled, or was that a volunteer?
Well, we all thought we were coming back.
Yeah.
We were a popular show, and it was a surprise that we actually did not come back for a 4th season. And apparently the scripts were prepared, and CBS just axed us. And that was it was kind of shocking. 3 years was not that long.
But those episodes are all beloved. Even the Vegetable Rebellion.
Yes, even that.
And we would, every year we would leave not knowing if we were coming back.
Oh, really? With that many episodes, you
Yes.
think they'd be prepared for the fall?
No, and of course shows didn't do end of the season show, finale show.
Yeah. Well, that's what Angela's talking about.
Yeah.
The Blu-ray script, was it Bill's script?
Well, that's why we never came back to Earth.
Yeah.
And that's why we were still out there.
All those early Ellen shows, all the early Ellen shows, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, they're still down there. The Time Tunnel guys are still, floating around somewhere. There was never any closure on any of it.
No, and neither for us.
Yeah.
And we'd get a call maybe a week before we were going to shoot, and they'd say, "Okay, you're coming back in a week." And so when we left after 12 years, no one ever said goodbye, or we'll see you later. There wasn't a goodbye show.
We never even had a rap party.
No, nothing. We just went our own way.
Well, here's your rap party today. Here it is right here. You gotta be out of here in 3 minutes. I gotta give them a say. You got your hand up. What's your first name?
Claire.
Claire?
Claire.
What's your question?
Right, I'd like to ask Angela, we'll be leading the Sound of Music tour next year. I'm hoping to go on it. You've been back to Austria. You went back in 2000 with all the Sound of Music. You've been back with Heather, and you visit the lakes, the boats. Does it bring it all in Madagascar? Does it all come back to life for you?
I love that accent, by the way.
She's got a probe.
Did you hear her?
I think I got the gist of your question about reliving, going back and
When
going.
you go back to Austria, does it bring all of that Sound of Music back? And you visit
Yeah,
the lakes?
it's funny. It's just like how today, when you look at a video of yourself at a birthday party or something, and your kids are little, and now they're, you know, grown, and they're married or whatever, it's like that feeling that you get about going back somewhere and reliving that, and that's exactly what it is. It's like a memory that comes to life again. So it's that same feeling. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Your name, sir?
Darren,
Darren has been applauding and laughing wildly through this whole show. Where are you from?
New Jersey.
Okay, nice to have you here. Who's your question for?
Stanley and Barry. It was true that shot all the scenes with Fred so he could go play golf. And I just I want to do an impression of Fred McMurray.
Oh, this isn't America's Got Talent.
Guys, Chip, why don't you go take Champ out for a walk?
Darren, ladies and gentlemen. Questions, anybody? Yes, you're up.
I just want to thank you all because you bring back so many happy memories. But I have to say to Angela, I knew I was gay when I played Lost in Space as a child and I was funny.
My name is Jackie and I volunteer at the National Capoeira TV Museum. And what I want to ask you, and I've been asking this all week, if you could have one piece of work that said, hey, this represents me at the museum, all of you, and thank you for coming, you all look great. One piece of work that says it could be your most popular, most unsung, new, old, whatever, what would it be?
All right, go down the line. Barry.
Social network.
Oh, yeah, you were great at that. You were really good at that.
Mine wouldn't be acting. Actually, I produced an educational documentary for actors on the business side of being an actor, which has never been done before. Everything is always about craft and acting, and on the artistic side. And we produced a 10-hour program that really discusses all those aspects of being an actor for the first time.
Keep your website out, Stan, your website, so they can buy that. So he worked 10 years on that
You can just
project.
go to my website, just StanleyLivingston.com, and there's a link to go there.
All right, Tina Cole, the one piece of work you've done. Yes, no pressure here. And we do have another panel coming in, so you have 5 seconds.
Oh, great. That's too hard. And it wouldn't be in the acting. I direct theater for children in Sacramento. Free, it's been running 76 years. Free for kindergarten. I've been a great team, and we perform for 20,000 children a year from pre-K to 3rd grade, and it's free. It's the only free program in Sacramento.
I think a movie that I did before I started Lassie called Escapade in Japan. It was the first movie filmed in Japan after the war. We filmed it in 1956. I spent 3.5 months in Japan when I was 6 years old, and it was a real eye-opener. But it is a great movie starring Teresa Wright and Cameron Mitchell.
Good for you.
And Clint Eastwood was in it, but he didn't even get billing. I was above Clint Eastwood.
I love it. Ms. Cartwright.
Oh dear. Well, I can't decide. I'm going for Lost in Space, Sound of Music. I don't know. Those two just stick out in my mind. Yeah, it's hard to pick.
Yeah. Sound of Music was monumental. And you were wonderful in it. Okay, I got that gentleman and that lady and this gentleman, and we got to get out of here, unfortunately. Ma'am.
Hey, my name's Karen, and I want to thank you all. It's been an honor and privilege being here in your presence and having you here. My question is, if you could go and work with any actor or actress, present or past, who would it be?
If you could work with any actor or actor, present or past, who would it be? This gentleman's still working, so.
I would like to work with Meryl Streep.
I'd like to work with my brother again. Hey, before we sign off here, too, I think everybody should give Stu'S Shostak a huge round of applause. This is a very important event, and how do I know that? I've known Stu forever, and this is only the second time I've ever seen him in long pants.
This is my wife. gentleman way back there. Stand up. What's your... Oh, wait, finish.
I can't even.
You're not helping time to
Come on, pass the present.
Clint Eastwood.
Angela worked with everybody.
Oh, gee, I don't know. I'll think
Okay, let me get that gentleman.
Robert Redford.
Robert.
Movie star crush.
Okay, we got to wrap this up. The mics are going out. Sir, what's your name? What's your question?
John Wright, Angela Cartwright.
Yeah.
I was a big Zorro fan. What was it like to work with Guy Williams?
Guy Williams.
Oh, he was so lovely. He was just a great guy, and he was like a rock. I mean, my head came up to his chest, and I was just thinking it was like a slab of stone. He was amazing. He really was. And very educated, and loved opera and wine, and not that I had wine with him. He was a very, very nice man, and we lost him way too soon.
And he was such a great father figure for that show. He just commanded the Robinson family. Great actor. Okay, last question. Your name?
My name is Joe. Angela, you have such an extensive career, and we just got a little snippet here tonight. I know all these other folks have been on Stu's show.
Oh, no.
If there's any chance,
No, don't do this to me.
Stu does great interviews.
Don't do this to me.
He paid him.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. Give me back the photo I signed for you. You have been a marvelous audience. Can I take you home?
No, that was fine. I had to stand up.